I'll come back. Hi, everybody. It's Wendy, and we are here in the sanctuary at the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. And we are about to start our broadcast. Just wanted to give us the opportunity to be able to share our page. Probably have to refresh. To share with our other pages before we get started. And want to encourage you to comment, to like, to share, to subscribe to both of our pages, mine and my guest. So give us a second before we get started. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm sharing. Hold on. Share. Let's see. Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me just add a few hashtags. Okay. All right, so we're about to get started. Jessica, our engineer, is about to start us off. Let me make sure that we can both be in the frame. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so welcome to the sanctuary. Just let me know when you're ready. Okay. Welcome to the sanctuary. You're listening to DC Radio 96.3 HD4 and dcradio.gov. I am Wendy Cherry, your host, and we are back here in the sanctuary once again. And I have a really cool guest. He is a third timer here in the sanctuary. His name is Manifest. Welcome, Manifest.
Discuss just issues that are pertinent to men and women in terms of healing, purification, and transformation. So I'm happy to be here. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Okay. So Manifest is a keynote speaker, a corporate trainer, an energy work expert, and you have to explain energy work expert, and mindfulness facilitator with a background in Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, and energy healing. Okay. So what does all that mean? That sounds all, but what does it mean? What does that mean? Welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here again, Wendy. It means that I'm a man who is embracing his healing and transformation work moment to moment, meaning that I'm intentionally setting out each day to work on myself, if you will. Understand that I have work to do in the world with my family, with my community, with others. But the most important work is the inner work, the energy. So when we talk about energy, we're talking about that God wisdom, that infinite source, that divinity within us, if you will, that, many wisdom traditions speak of when it says the kingdom of heaven is within.
Yeah.
All of those, we are the microcosm or the macrocosm, meaning that everything that exists out in the universe, that divine infinite flow also exists within us. Okay. And so we have to take responsibility for that through our thoughts, through our prayers, meditations, affirmations, and things of that nature. So everything I do in that regard in terms of the Tai Chi, the Qigong, the mindfulness meditation, and the energy healing really is directly a source of me tuning in on a daily basis and living from that inner G, which that inner G is really me. It's, and so I'm happy.
Like the inner God.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Inner God.
Okay. So how did you get to that? Like, were you born already knowing this? And where are you from, first of all?
Well, I was born in Tallahassee, Florida, on Florida A&M University's campus. My mom and dad both attended there.
Okay.
And but I've lived most of my life, all of my life, up here in the D.C. area.
So you're from D.C. And for those of you who know the history of D.C., there have been good times and bad times in Washington, D.C. How did you come to this, being raised here, to this kind of like elevated mindset, living in such at sometimes a volatile place?
Well, first and foremost, I give thanks for a solid foundation from my mom and dad. And they always instilled virtues such as doing the right thing under the right circumstances with the right people, regardless of whether somebody is watching or not. That you have to stand for something, that you have to live by certain principles. And so that's something that was instilled within me very early on and reiterated throughout. Also eating healthy foods and just taking an active, healthy approach to life. Those were not just things I read in the book, but they were the unfolding book that I lived and experienced by way of the people around me. So I give thanks to that. Growing up in an inner city area, DMV, particularly during the 80s, where you had a lot of violence and crime and things of that nature, it was really an opportunity for me to strengthen those principles. Not that I wanted to, what I mean? It was very easy for anybody to stray and to deviate and to see what else is out there. But it takes a village. So I had family members and others who consistently helped me stay on course. And so when you have strong men and women in your life, that can I can say be an easier process, but it can be a more empowered process, because even when you want to stray and you want to, check out other things, you have people who help you stay rooted and grounded on the path of success.
Okay, that sounds good. And that's a blessing. Like you said, you're giving thanks. Not everybody has that.
That's correct.
So that's a blessing for you to be able to have had that experience. So we are talking about your organization, the SageMen. And the SageMen is providing personal development, rites programs, and healing retreats to help men embrace their divine masculinity and live from their highest possibilities. So the SageMen, who are you?
Great question. When the word sage has dual meanings. What probably comes to most people's awareness, consciousness, is the incense, resin, if you will, the purifying, how can I say it, vehicle that people cleanse their own personal energy field, as well as their living space, their living environment.
Did some this morning.
Absolutely. So that's a part of it, but that's a very small part of it. The primary emphasis when we talk about sage is that God self. The sages, enlightened men and women, people who have cultivated a certain level of their divine intelligence, have always walked the face of the earth as the leaders. Those people in our communities and our villages and certain places around the earth who are held in the highest esteem because of the energy work that they have cultivated throughout their life, like their lifetime, if you will. So the word sage really is synonymous with a divine man or a holy man who has a high level of integrity, who walks and speaks and lives from a place of purification and fortification. So when he comes into the room, whether he says something verbally or not, you can decipher by his energy that he is a man of integrity and he walks from his highest God self. And so that's the emphasis on the sage that we bring forth and we cultivate. But that does start with a level of purification, just like the incense.
Okay. So the purification part, how do you get to there? Like, what is the purification process? Well,
on a daily basis, we walk with an energy field. And so when we talk about energy field,
is that everybody or just the SageMen?
That's everyone.
Okay.
and everything.
Okay.
So everything is energy.
Okay.
Our thoughts, our emotions, the food we eat, our breathing, the buildings in which we live and work in, all of those entities, whether they are physical or more energetic in nature, they're energy.
Okay.
And so whenever we have a thought, that's energy. Whenever we have an emotion, which is simply energy in motion, which oftentimes the thoughts that trigger certain levels of anxiety, excitement, sadness, so forth and so on. So throughout our time on this earth, we have tons and many thoughts. Just in one day, we can have millions of thoughts in one day.
Right.
And so many of those thoughts come from the subconscious mind, 90 to 95%, meaning everything that we've experienced from the past, whether it's trauma, drama, tragedies, bad experiences, or outdated ways of being, false belief systems, all those things contribute to our subconscious mind.
Okay.
So, if we are men and we're in our 30s or in our 40s and we're walking and living based off of a number of bad experiences from the past relative to our own upbringing and raising, our relationships, early relationships where we maybe felt hurt and damaged and we don't know how to open up, then that's how we're showing up moment to moment in, whether we're in relationships or we're relating to family members, our careers and so forth and so on. All those thoughts and emotions dominate our well-being.
Yeah.
And if we're not clear that we need to purify that through certain techniques, certain meditation exercises, energy clearing exercises, self-care approaches, saying, listen, maybe I need to see a therapist. Maybe I need to actually get a coach. If we're not intentional about that, then we continue to live from those outdated beliefs. Those, I call them strategies of survival, SOS. What helped us get through the hood or make it out.
Right.
And somebody could say, well, hey, man, when I was growing up, I had to do it by any means necessary, sell drugs, so forth and so on, your way, my way, what I'm saying, stand your ground approach and that kind of thing. And then they go throughout life still carrying forth some of that outdated awareness. So they're on the job and they're like, okay, there's only one position, me against you. I got to throw dirt on you,
right?
Just to try to get this, as opposed to saying, I'm simply going to do my best and let God, divine intelligence, do the rest. If that's my job, I'm going to get it because I'm giving 110% with my preparation. But it's not me having to put you down.
Right. So you just gave me an aha moment, right? Because
you're not that kind of person, right?
No. Not anymore. No, I mean, I am still, like as a human being. And so trying to rid myself of old programming when I'm in a new situation. So situations can come up, whether they are new situations or the new iteration of a situation, right? But I have to choose how I'm going to move in it, and trying to remove the old programming can be difficult. So an example of, like, you're in a new relationship, but you still have the old thoughts of trying to protect yourself and trying to be a certain way. That's old. But if you have new tools, then you can do something different, right? Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have to have the sessionify old ways of being that we do not want to carry forward.
Right. Because then you'll keep repeating the same old thing.
Absolutely.
So I was just thinking, am I going to choose fear in this situation, or am I going to choose love?
Absolutely. And when we talk about building a house, you can't build it on a bad foundation or a shaky foundation. And oftentimes the foundation that we think is a foundation is really an outdated foundation.
Right.
Cracks in it, holes, it's wearing thin, but we're still trying to build a new relationship, build a new business on a model which was really a strategy of survival. It may have worked for us because we didn't know any better.
Right.
But that can't, be what we align with as we move forward in life. Okay.
So let's talk about, we're talking about SageMen. So for, I'm a 70s, 80s baby, and then I'm a hip hop generation baby. So we have seen the masculine portrayal, especially of African American men, Black and brown men, not always be so positive, right? And so what is it that we can do, or what is it that the brothers can do to move past those stereotypes? And, you know, some of them are stereotypes, but some of them is really how y'all were acting. And maybe not manifest raw, but that's how some of the brothers were acting, just really crazy, you know, for all different types of reasons. So, you know, there's a term coined toxic masculinity. So talk to us about what masculinity is and the difference between toxic and healthy, and how you can move towards being healthy and showing up healthy.
When we speak of masculinity, we're talking about assertive, how can I say it, yang or masculine, or how can I say it, manly energy,
okay,
if you will, that is directed, it's moving out, it's showing up, announcing itself. Whereas the feminine energy is a bit more nurturing. You know, when you think of women who give birth, breastfeeding, nurturing, you all the first nurturers, the first teachers. Men, generally speaking, and again, there's no absolutes about any of this,
right?
But men, generally speaking, have been the hunters, the warriors, on the front line. So our energy shows up in a more affirmative and directive posture, where we're going out to take care of business in that regard. And so that masculine energy then is about channeling that assertive energy in ways to get things done. Oftentimes, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, women coming together, you know, you all kind of can take a while to talk about things, and really y'all say, okay, we're going to meet here about one thing, and then y'all start talking about other things, checking in, making sure Betty Lou's fine, and everybody else is fine. Then after about 20 minutes, y'all get to where you're going. Well, men, generally speaking, you know, we kind of say what we mean what we say. And so the masculine energy is really about keeping one's word. You know what I mean? Whatever I say I'm going to do, I need to do based off of my word. It's a very, I won't say linear, very directive type of energy. And so the difference is between toxic masculinity and divine masculinity is that toxic masculinity is more one-dimensional. It's saying, okay, this affirmative energy, you know, I got to be the warrior all the time.
Right.
You know, or I have a misconception about what the warrior is. You know, if I'm not dominating you and winning at all costs, you know, then I'm not being my masculine self. You know, and there are many situations in life that don't require a ultra competitive approach all the time. You know, oftentimes, particularly in the world we live in now, it requires more of a collaborative approach. How can we take a win-win approach to this process or this business venture? And then also, toxic masculinity is really men who using that directive and masculine energy, saying, you know, when it comes to dealing with my pain, I always have to beat my chest and show up as this person who is not able to actually speak from a place of vulnerability about what's going on and what I need to release. Where divine masculinity says the warrior within me is actually being able to show up within my brothers, within front of my brothers or my mate or whoever else, family, and actually announce and say, listen, this is something I've been working through for the past 20 to 25 years. If I don't get this up and out of me, this might kill me right about now. So I'm going to need your support right now in me unpacking something that I've been carrying around and being able to have heart-to-heart conversations with other men, other women about where I am, where it's not third party. It's not, you know what I mean, me talking from an abstract place where I'm never really speaking about my own personal issues. And so men who show up with that toxic masculinity, they oftentimes turn within and abuse themselves or actually share their pain with others. This is a phrase, hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
So that's the toxic masculinity. Okay, I'm a self-medicating, self-abuse. Whereas the My masculinity says, let me do this assessment about these outdated ways of being, these traumas and dramas that I've been carrying around. And by any means necessary, from a healthy standpoint, let me deal with this. That means if I have to go see a therapist, go see a coach, find a family member who I can confide with, brothers who I know that won't judge me, let me go do that. And as a part of my healing, because I want to be a whole person.
Well, it's interesting because back maybe, I don't remember when it was, when we were on a show together, you were here in the sanctuary and we had my friend Cole on. And he was talking about some very personal issues related to being abused as a child, sexually abused as a child. And he was telling us that while he was opening up, the brothers were, why are you talking about this? So how do you, like, you know, that was probably, he did what he wanted to do, and he got it up and he got it out and he wanted to talk about it. But how do you navigate when you share your heart with somebody, especially from a male perspective, and then they're like, why are you doing that? What do you do? How do you help them navigate that?
Well, I would say one of the most important things to do is know thyself. You know what I mean? Know what's important to you first and foremost, meaning that if you have to stand as an island, you know what I mean, and the people around you, whether it's families, people in your brotherhood circles, so forth and so on, can't see the need for you to actually seek healing and your own purification work. You have to make that determination that you want to live, that you want to be whole, that you want to be healthy. And so there are men, you know, many men in more recent times over the past 5 to 7 years who have been stepping up and announcing, you know what I mean? Like, listen, this is what I experienced as a young boy, you know what I mean? And this has scarred me. This is what I've been carrying around for 40, 50 years. I have thoughts about this all the time. I want to live, you know what I mean? I want to be around another 30 or 40 years, and they're stepping up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if they had the most supportive system around them, but they made that determination that they wanted to be healthy and to live, not just for themselves, but for their own family members. They didn't want to be that person that dumped it on others. So I would say if there's any man out there, first and foremost, know you got to do this for you. You know what I mean? Regardless of whether everybody else is going to frown on you or you're around a circle of brothers right now who can't understand the need for this process, you will probably not only save your life and your well-being, but many of those brothers who might be frowning on you are the exact ones who need the healing themselves. You know what I mean? So you will give them the inspiration in the coming years to step up. So make that determination yourself. And number two, I would say find, by any means necessary, men who you can have these heart-to-heart conversations with. They're out there. You just gotta, you know what I'm saying, decipher, okay, who in my network, whether my job, whether my business dealings, whether, you know, my sports activities, are men, you know, who I can have more candid and honest heart-to-heart conversations with. And you'll be able to identify and say, okay, man, John is a good brother, you know what I mean? And we talk from time to time. He shares about some of his shortcomings with his family and his wife and children. And I've shared to him about some of my fears and so forth and so on. That's somebody I need to sit down with on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? We go out, get something to eat. We go bowling or whatever, and we have those conversations. So those men are around, you know what I mean? You just are intentionally seeking out people who will be a part of your energy field, your inner circle of empowerment.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So my brothers, hope you hear that. So going back a little bit, you mentioned the name warrior twice. Warrior, what does that mean? And where did you get that from?
I didn't make up the word warrior. But right.
So the 7 archetypes. You said there are 7 archetypes. What is an archetype 1 of a sage man? Break that down, please.
Okay, good. The word archetype is a how can I say it? A paradigm of consciousness. I don't want to bring it. I'm going to bring it back down to earth.
What's paradigm?
Exactly. So you have a male archetype, female archetype, if you will. So that within itself is men or males, generally speaking, operate, you know, not in absolutes, but operate certain ways. and women's operate certain ways. So
Okay.
an archetype is a way of being that, how can I say it, expresses or articulates, whether somebody is more business oriented, whether somebody is more nurturing, someone is more of a family man. So there's 7 archetypes in the Sacred Manhood or SageMen model.
Okay.
And that's very important, that 7. Many traditions in past have had 4 or maybe even 5. And those are awesome models where they talk about, in ancient indigenous systems, about being the warrior, about being the eagle, about embracing the healer, or even the lover, and things of that nature. And so we're living in a time of what I affirm is more of an expanded awareness on the planet. Science has proven that we've moved from what was 3rd dimensional awareness to 5th dimensional awareness. So when you were growing up, you probably wore the 3D glasses sometimes or went to the movies, and you're able to see things that seem magical in 3D until you understand there's a 5D out there that's far more expansive in terms of being able to tune into insights, revelations, informations that are all around you at all times, higher states of awareness.
Okay.
And so as we shift and expand our awareness on the planet, everyone, we have to adjust our models of what sacred manhood and divine masculinity is, divine femininity is. And so with that, we've moved kind of away from, or expanded the 4 model system to 7. And that's something I got quiet, and through my meditations, prayers, mantras, I was able to channel much of what that looks like, if you will. And so the 7, we start with the vision.
Okay.
The enterpriser.
Enterprise. And you're going to break these down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The healer, the tantric, the pillar, and the mystic.
Okay.
Now, all of these existed before I went into my meditative process. It's simply a matter of saying, okay, let's bring forward a more expanded model. So I don't want anyone listening to say, okay, Manifest is affirming that he created this.
Right.
I simply was able to meditate and calm my mind and align with this awareness that we need a more expanded model of sacred manhood. So the visionary, and the reason being, Wendy, we need a more expanded model is because too often men have shown up saying, I'm the provider, I'm the enterpriser.
Yeah.
And for a long time, women stayed at home. They did the nurturing, domesticated duties of raising children, cleaning, and things of that nature, where men went out and they did the enterprise. You know what I mean? Whether they were they had side jobs and trades, they were fishing or hunting, or they had formal business dealings and things of that nature. So they brought back the currency, the money, the financial abundance to feed the family. Well, we're living in a time now where that's changed considerably, where women are making just as much, if not more, than men in many instances. So if a man has aligned and rooted his awareness of his manhood in this enterpriser solely, you know what I'm saying? What's going to happen when his partner is making twice as much as he is?
Or if he stops making the money.
Exactly. Right. He loses his sense of manhood and says, oh man, let me give up. Let me go, just hang out with the boys and those kinds of things. Or a man has primarily showed up as like, I'm the tantric, you know what I mean? I can, we can have great intimacy and sex and so forth and so on, but maybe that's it, you know what I mean? That and the enterprise where women are saying, no, I need some healing. Right. We need some direction. We need some visionary perspectives on this. We need you to stand up in certain areas and re-engage and have better relationships and fight for, your family connections with your children, and things that, what are you willing to fight for as a man? I need you to actually be more involved in your community. And so when we take that 1 or 2 dimensional approach, which really, women as well as the planet has moved beyond that, then men lose their footing. And there's many men who have lost their footing, and they're creating vehicles like Men Going Their Own Way and other things of that nature that are online. And in many cases, these are men who haven't adapted to a more expanded awareness of what being a man or manhood is, or
right. Because they don't have models.
They don't have models.
Right. Okay.
So real quick, let's go through what those 7 areas are. The visionary. Every man should know thyself, know his strengths, his weaknesses, what makes him tick, what ticks him off, and have clarity on how he shows up into the world. You know what I mean? And if he doesn't have clarity, he needs to make that his top priority, because your visionary is going to drive the car. If you get in the car every day and you don't know where you're going, you know what I'm saying? You're bound to end up anywhere. You know what I mean? An accident, car runs out of gas, you run into people, you hurt yourself and others, so forth and so on. So we have men at times who are simply just drifting on a daily basis without any crystal clear direction on where they're going, on the macro or the micro level. And the macro is the bigger picture. What's my 1, 5, 10-year goals, you know what I mean, in terms of myself and my family. The micro is, okay, you know, hey, the man's wife or partner says, hey, you know, I want us to take a vacation, you know, next weekend or this weekend, or let's go out and get something to eat. Honey, what do you want to do? 9 times out of 10, what does the man say? Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you pick.
Right. You pick. You know what I'm saying? So we're oftentimes provided the leadership role, but men are simply throwing it back to whatever you want to do. You know what I mean, honey? Thinking that that's somehow going to empower the situation. When really, from all the women I talk to, they're thoroughly frustrated. Like, can you just, you know what I'm saying, have a plan sometimes?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So
Jessica's laughing.
yeah. So whether it's the big picture or even the small picture, a man must have some clarity on where he's going. Even if the woman says, listen, we went and got Italian food last week, I still put it out there. And then, okay, you know what? Give me a couple of minutes. You know, let's get some of that Thai food. You know, I'm gonna keep trying. You know, I'm gonna take a moment to align with that visionary archetype so I can get clarity on the warrior. Every man, and so the warrior, you know, when we think of warrior, we think of martial arts and those kinds of things, and being able to protect himself, his woman and his children and others in the community who may not be able to protect himself. And that's a major part of the warrior. But first, we start with the internal warrior. What are you willing to fight for as a man? You know, what are those areas in your life that are non-negotiables? You know what I mean? Is it your purpose? Where you're saying, hey, I'm going to live on purpose. You know, he'll come hell or high water. I have to do this. This is what is driving my heart space. And, you know, I have to show up, you know, helping these children. I have to start a youth group or a nonprofit organization. Or, you know, for a brother who is estranged from the mother of his children and his 2 or 3 children, is he willing to fight to mend those fences, you know what I mean, to reconcile so he can be the best father? So the warrior is that aspect of the man that can tap into and say, I'm willing to fight for what is right for any given moment, whether that, you know, that is my own goals, my own visions, my own ways of showing up in the world and for the benefit of my family, or I can also protect those around me and myself when necessary. And then you have the enterpriser. When we speak of the word enterprise, we're talking about abundance, prosperity. Every man, regardless of whether his woman is making twice as much as he is or just as much, you know, there's no limitation in terms of abundance. The only limitation is the thoughts in one's subconscious mind. So when we talk about the word money, it's synonymous with currency. When we actually take the root word of currency, it means current. Current simply means an exchange of energy from one point to another. So if I'm a man, you know what I mean, the only thing that prevents me or empowers me to be abundant financially is my thought process, how I feel about myself. So in other words, every man can understand the secrets. I don't even say the secrets, the science of prosperity and abundance and how to move energy from one place within myself to another to actually attain certain finances, home ownership, real estate, so forth and so on. And when men have that understanding, and live from that, then they can match whatever the woman is making and not making, and everybody brings sufficiently to the table. Because I know some of y'all are tired of saying, you know, let's go on a vacation, and the women feel like 9 times out of 10 they got to pay for it. You know what I mean? For men, ain't stand, and I'm like, I stay home. You know, if I got to do that. So you know, the 4th archetype is the healer. Every man must be a healer. Every man is a born healer.
Okay.
He must be able to heal himself and go into self-care, understand self-care as healthcare. He said, listen, periodically on a daily basis and throughout the 7-day process and the monthly process, I'm going to take time for me, whatever that is, and find healthy, activities. You know what I mean? If that's just me sitting in silence, or it's me going to get a massage or reflexology or taking some type of trade craft or something that gives me clarity of mind and peace of mind, I'm going to do that as a man.
Yes.
And so from that place of healing myself, then I can be a facilitator of healing to those around. My children, I can teach them about mindfulness and breathing techniques and certain food to eat and not to eat. I can maybe massage the woman in my life, or rub her feet, reflexology a certain way, that kind of thing. So, when that man is embracing his healer, it ensures his level of well-being, but it also contributes to the well-being of those around.
Like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And then the fifth is the tantric.
Okay.
Every man should love himself, first of all, and find those areas where he hasn't been loving himself. Maybe he hasn't feeling worthy. Maybe he doesn't feel like he deserves love.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't feel like he's good enough, or, he's manly enough in certain areas and those kind of things. And so identifying what's holding you back from loving yourself, moving beyond that to fully love yourself, and then bring that abundance of love to your partners, to those around you. And so, and also learning certain intimacy techniques so that, a man can make sure he's taking care of business, what I'm saying, in that department, because, erectile dysfunction and a lot of other things are very prevalent in society today because men don't know how to align with the tantric archetype.
Right.
And then you have the pillar. You know what I mean? A pillar, when you think of a pillar, you think of a foundation stone that, or a foundation that the house can exist on.
Right.
So the pillar is the family man. He's the leader. If you will. Every man is a pillar, whether he has his own children or not. He can actually show up at a school and be that fatherly figure, during those community service and youth group activities. He can be that pillar to the neighbors and to the children around him in his community. He can also be, of course, the best family man within his own family, what I mean? And that kind of be that rock. So every man must be a pillar within himself, his family, his relationships, and ultimately the community. When we talk about pillars, we say, okay, he's a pillar in his community.
Okay.
We're speaking of a man or woman, for that matter, who is well respected, who is perceived to have a high level of integrity. They mean what they say and say what they mean, and they take care of business to benefit the community. Every man must show up in that regard. And then the seventh, but not least, is the mystic. The mystic is the culmination of the other six.
Okay.
So that infinite self within the man that he becomes more intimately aware of and in alignment with through his prayers, his meditations, his mindfulness practices, his giving to others, karmic deeds, virtuous deeds, seeing always in every moment how he can help others, not from a place of selfishness, saying, okay, this is always going to come back somehow to me, but to see everyone as an extension of himself. So the mystic approaches each day and each moment as an opportunity for his soul's ascension process. The conversation we're having right now, we are lifting each other. When I leave here, whatever the next endeavor or task is, it's not just me saying, okay, this is a mundane task. There's spirit within everything. As African people really didn't have mind, body, and spirit. And ancient, everything was considered spirit. Right. The tree was spirit. The water, the sun, the moon, the communion amongst the elders and the youth, the bones that people would absorb the meat off of and were on the ground. Everything had vibration and spirit in it. So the mystic is able to, which is every man's birthright, is to see every scenario, every conversation, every unfolding every day as an opportunity for me to intentionally ascend and grow spiritually on my path and be the best version of myself as a man of the divine. Wow. And so when men showing up like that, there's no holes in that game. What I'm saying? Awesome. We show up in our highest possibilities, and women are saying, thank God they are here on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
So that's what the SageMen are bringing to the table.
So how can people sign up? I got a few the center way.
Absolutely. TheSageMen.com, TheSage.com. Right now it goes to our Facebook page. We have a lot of activity going on there. And I would say any man and any woman for that matter, we welcome women to the page as well, because we want you all to comment and support this process here. We understand that every man came from a woman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm clear about the co-creative nature of men and women supporting one another. And so TheSageMen.com, TheSageMen.com, TheSageMen.com. Currently, we have a 90-day Sacred Manhood Rites of Initiation that just started a few days ago, June 1st and 2nd, as we were coming into the new moon. Powerful. We had about 14 brothers on board. And I mean, the first couple of days were beyond words. The bonding activities, men sitting down all there, not because a woman put a foot up their backside and said, listen, if you don't come, I'm gonna leave you because I'm tired of you and you need to be there. I've been in circles where just about every man we went around, he said he was showing up because the woman in his life told him he needed to be there. Yeah. So what happens when she's not applying that pressure to him? He doesn't intentionally grow. Right. So we got to change that narrative as men. We don't need women to say, hey, either you're going to show up or I'm going to find somebody and I'm going to get out. No. I've been there myself where I'm saying, okay, I'm going to show up to appease this woman in my life. And, you know, throughout my process, those women were able to actually decipher, like, he's not really living, you know what I'm saying, to his highest potential. And they couldn't put their finger on it, but they knew that I wasn't fully activated in my being. So I'm talking from experience when I see other men showing up like that and knowing that that's not the divine masculine. That's you showing up to appease your woman. And when she ain't putting maximum pressure, you're going to go back into whatever you were doing, which was pretty much nothing. So we're changing that narrative. Every man that's showing up and is showing out in this process is there by his own volition, with not looking for any permission. He's showing up saying, this is something I'm seeking, I'm wanting, and we're changing that narrative. So we have three primary areas of this 90-day process: purification, fortification, and transformation. We all must identify and accept and assess what is it that we've experienced in life that is holding us back up till now. Those traumas, those dramas, those bad experiences, those false beliefs, those strategies of survival, and deal with that. So that was the first set of activities that we focused on a few days ago. We said, okay, let's go around the horn and figure out what's holding us back. Right. And it was illuminating. It was because brothers like, I had no idea. It was 1 through 20, you know what I mean? I was showing up and I was trying to take this bad foundation and build a house on it, relative to my career, relative to my new relationship, relative to how I show up in my family. And it was based off of all these things that I need to let go of. So it's just a phenomenal process. Every brother was like, man, this is, more than what I expected. And when men come together and they come together in communion with their own intentions on how they want to personally and collectively grow, that divine masculine energy is something powerful beyond words.
I can imagine. I saw some of the pictures on your page. So go to the SageMen. Well, what about on Facebook? So that's what it'll take them to, right? The SageMen.com goes to the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So go check it out and look at some of the photos. You can see they were going out by the water and whatever. So now that's cool for the men, right? Because I do believe that. So like at the Goddess Awakening and Healing Sanctuary, I kind of focus on women because I feel like when you heal a woman, then there's a ripple effect. But also when you help heal a man, there's a ripple effect so that we'll all come together. Like you want to attract somebody who is healed or maybe more healed than you are, and then you work together to ascend, right? How do women support something like that besides trying to push their partner or their brother or the person that they love that, in the direction of you have to heal? How can we as women, support that?
Well, one of the first things that I would ask and suggest women do is just be mindful that on this planet, working through our traumas and dramas,
Yeah.
our those tough, challenging circumstances that we have experienced in life. And one of the things that women have shared with me, and I've heard them say this among themselves many times, is that when you have a room full of women, maybe 75, 80% of them have experienced negative interactions, traumas and dramas, some childhood and abusive and things of that nature by way of men.
By the hands of men.
Absolutely, by the hands of men.
Yeah.
And so it can be very challenging for women to want the best for men and to at times be supportive of men when they know, men and, oftentimes haven't actually first stepped up to rectify some of those, scenarios that they have, perpetrated on women.
Yeah.
So I would just remind the women out there that, what is it? 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 men, have experienced some level of abuse themselves. And those numbers probably don't even tell the whole story.
I think they're higher. I think they're higher. Yeah.
So in other words, the same way when you line 50 or 100 women up in the room, maybe 70, 80% of them have experienced some abuse. It might just be the same for men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not absolving them, making any excuses. I mean, men, that's why the SageMen program is here on the planet Earth, because we're challenging men. It's not a matter of can you do better. We are basically demanding that you do better.
Right.
But, also it's just, a reminder to women that, many of the men, when they show up and they are abusive, they're coming from their own experiences. So how do we break the cycle?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just saying, okay, you did it on this side, you did it on that side. So, I would like to ask any women out there, whether you are still working through your process or not, is to understand that every man came from you. Mm-hmm. And that if you see men out exhibiting certain behaviors that are abusive towards themselves or others, that the only way we break this cycle is that we support each other's healing. And so that is the first level of awareness that, that I affirm that women should have, is that, as the nurturers, as the creators of life, you know what I mean? When you all shift, everything can be, it can birth a higher consciousness and things of that nature. So see every man kind of as fertile ground.
Yeah.
As a divine being with that divine consciousness within him. He might not even know it's there. He might not even know that's his birthright. That's his real way of being.
Correct.
But saying a mental prayer, suggesting, hey, without forcing, hey, I just want to share this link with you, consider it, so forth and so on, and that kind of thing. And also become involved with the process itself. Reach out to the founders, the leaders, brothers who are doing the work, and ask how you can be supported. Mm-hmm. Some women are doing that, and we appreciate that, whether that is financial support or whether that is saying, okay, I'm going to send a number of men your way, and some may show and some may not, but we're going to continue to send men your way, or just having co-ed, co-creative, collaborative type events where men and women come together to talk about these issues to, in a more formal manner, see how they can be supportive of one another.
I love that. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were feeling like it was like they know that they want to go another step, but they feel like the old stuff is maybe holding them back or maybe pulling them back. Have you found where people are afraid to stand into their highest potential because it'll make them have to do things differently? Have you ever seen that?
Absolutely. I mean, dysfunction and discord and trauma can, how can I say it? It can become addictive. You know what I mean? We can embrace a victim consciousness, where after 15, 20, 25, 30 years, we have used these strategies of survival on a daily basis. Whatever you do over and over and over and over again becomes habitual. And 90%, 95% of the thought process is the subconscious mind. So you're talking about 5, maybe 10% at most of the conscious mind, maybe seeing things right now in real time and deciphering what's going on. Most of that 9 times out of deciphered or our past experiences. Yeah. So to tell somebody, listen, you need to get beyond this, and that person probably even knows that they need to move beyond that. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, if you had a candid conversation like, yeah, I need to stop smoking, stop drinking, I need to, stop hanging around those other folks. But you mean to tell me day after day, moment after moment for 35 years, you know what I'm saying? They've been building up an energy field, a vortex of thoughts, of emotions, of ways of being, and simply because they know they need to change, they're going to change.
It's not going to happen. Right?
Taking that first step can be very scary for folks. They're like, you mean to tell me I need to throw this victim, over the bridge and actually embrace a new way that will be liberating? I'm comfortable, even in my discomfort. Yeah. Discomfort of living and surviving this way. I know it's not good for me, but this other way is downright scary because of the unknown. You know what I mean? And that kind of thing.
That's real. I live that. Yeah. So I understand that. Okay. So you said something about the brothers being mindful. And so I want us to end in the last few minutes to talk about, we have 10 minutes, to talk about mindfulness and what does that mean and things people can do to become mindful. Because I'm pretty sure you have to change your consciousness to become a sage man. I guess you're born a sage man and then you kind of just come into it and begin to embody it as you learn.
That's a great way of articulating that. There really is no external reality for a sage man. Like you said, every man is divine consciousness. He has that God essence within him. Yeah. And so it's first having an understanding that that's my nature, that's my birthright. That's not some external reality that I experienced in old age, or I hope to. No, that's the core of who you are. That's the authentic, the true self.
Right.
And it's simply a matter of kind of cleansing and clearing and purifying oneself from those aspects that don't allow that to flow forward, if you will. And so mindfulness, when you look at the word mindfulness, you have mindful. Mm-hmm. And so mindful simply means having a state of awareness about what is going on in this moment, mm-hmm. if you will. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Being the observer. And in most cases, people are running on automatic. They're not even aware of what they're doing from moment to moment. And so when we're not aware of this meeting that I'm experiencing right now, this interview from a state of clarity and calm, then they might be answering questions based off their instinctual subconscious mind, their fears and so forth and so on, as opposed to their heart center and their true authentic nature. And so being mindful is being the observer. It's saying, I'm in a meeting right now, I'm on a bus, and there's various different dynamics that are going on. Through my breathing techniques, I can calm my mind, I can calm my breathing, and I can see this from a variety of different angles. You know what I mean? So I'm not reacting to anything. And I'm not overreacting to anything. I'm responding accordingly. And so with that, in every situation, one can calm themselves and say, okay, do I even need to respond to this at all? Maybe that's the best response. Mm-hmm. And so from that level of awareness and mindfulness, men and women can navigate life more from their higher consciousness as opposed to a sense of false security. You know what I mean? Like, my way or your way, or you're trying to intimidate me, or you're actually trying to belittle me, so forth and so on, when oftentimes that's not even the case.
Right.
And even within that, there are nuggets of responding and from a place of love where you actually help that other person. I'll give you an example. I mean, good friend of mine, and you probably laugh, days ago, I was telling him about a program, and when I told him about the program, he went off and said, man, I know more than some people in the program, so forth and so on, and I'm not going to do this and that kind of thing. And I didn't respond. You know what I mean? But that time I seen brother be like, man, he could just flip the handle, it been fire, return on fire. You know what I mean? That guy thing had just been dissolving down, and we hang up the phone on each other. So.
Right.
So I sat there and I was like, stay calm in my breathing. And as the observer said, this brother's speaking from his hurt, his pain. He really needs the help.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know he already told me that he needed help months before.
Right.
So I'm not even going to react or overreact to this situation. I'm going to calm down, stay within some breathing, and within about a number of seconds say, hey, look, bro, you bring a lot to the table. You bring some things to this table that actually we can benefit from you and your level of expertise. Right. But in a number of ways, we can bring something to help you. You know what I mean? Because I know you're frustrated and you're angry, and that's carried over into all aspects of your life. So let's find a win-win situation. And when basically was like, man, I'm sorry, Ralph. You know what I'm saying, man? And I appreciate you coming from a place of love, man. I need to be in the program. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So how often do we do that as opposed to, returning fire with fire?
Yes. And so I can give you an example of myself as a Scorpio. Mm-hmm. I'm always ready to be like, before you get me, right? Because, that's just how I grew up.
Right.
Having to be on the defense and stuff. But I'm learning. And it feels so much better. Like it feels better to be able to have that tool, to be able to just kind of disarm, and they don't even know you're disarming it. And it's not even an ego thing. It's like a peaceful thing. It's just like they're coming from a place of hurt.
Right.
So it works. 5 more minutes. It works. So that's cool. That's a good tool, a good tip.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, when one is living from that place of awareness, moment to moment of awareness, and they can be the observer, it creates win-win situations where I'm tuning in and saying, okay, this person really is a good person. I mean, they're coming from anger, frustration, trauma, so forth, getting less of a man or woman in your scenario by coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, it makes me more of one. It makes me a better, it gives me an opportunity to be the best version of myself in that scenario. And you walk away feeling great. You know how much energy it takes to return fire is fire. Yeah. I mean, initially it feels good. Like, I really gave it to him. You know what I mean? Got her, you know what I mean? But, you're dreaming about it, just showing up in your dreams. You're trying to eat food. You're still going over, you know what I'm saying? The back and forth. Like, maybe I need to get them again before they try to get me again. It's just silliness. It goes on for days and then maybe months. Y'all finally apologize to each other. How much toxic energy was wasted? You know what I mean? Just throwing, sludge and energy back to each other as opposed to saying, listen, right here, right now in this moment, I am going to be the observer, you know what I'm saying? Maintain my state of calm, you know what I'm saying, and equilibrium. And I am going to ensure that God aspect of me speaks through to engage this other person. Right then, right down, you dissolve the situation, you've transmuted it, and it becomes a win-win situation. You're not carrying around months of nonsense, and everybody's liberated. Wonderful.
Yeah, and like you said, the brother who came to you afterwards, he was like, I'm sorry. And then he'll be maybe more self-aware next time,
Absolutely.
And so that's the ripple effect.
Yes.
So I just want to be clear. I might do it 75% of the time. So I'm still working with my other 25%, but it's a good tool to have. And so I'm grateful to know that I can move in that way and that it works in that way. So we have like 4 minutes left, 3.5 minutes left. I want to really quickly for you to explain how important it is to balance the divine feminine and the divine masculine.
Great question. Every being, man and woman, has both divine masculine and divine feminine within them. And so in ancient, martial arts, internal martial arts, everybody's familiar with the yin-yang symbol.
Yeah, and the black and white circle with the dots. Okay.
Absolutely. And so, that is basically symbolic of everything that exists in the universe. Nothing exists primarily, 100% masculine or 100% feminine. Okay. Many of my teachers have emphasized that over and over. The sun has a masculine as well as a feminine cycle to it. It's primarily masculine,
Okay.
but it also during the sunset, and also when you don't see the sun at all, midnight, that's when it's within its feminine, you know what I'm saying, and more stillness state of being.
Okay.
The moon, even though it's primarily feminine, still has its masculine components to it. This planting of the seed, when you think of a seed, you think of a man's seed. So that's the one of the masculine phases, as well as the full moon masculine phases of what is primarily a feminine entity, which is the moon. So within man and woman, we have both masculine and feminine. Okay. And we must be in tune with both, just like you must be in tune with the sun and the moon. And so when a man is able to assert himself and live from a place of that vitality and direction, but it comes from finding times throughout the day or aligning times of stillness where he gets clarity from his divine insight, from his state of calm, breathing techniques, which is more feminine, then he can actually move forward in alignment with his higher self. You see what I'm saying? And that's where that divine masculine and feminine, or a man says, hey, I need therapy, I need to heal. You know what I mean? In order to be the best warrior and the best provider. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to seek out a coach or a therapist or a men's group where I can unpack some of this stuff. So that can be considered more of a feminine aspect of things where you're saying, hey, I need help. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I have to find self-healing ways, self-care ways of bettering myself. And so every man needs that. And every woman needs to be assertive and stand up for herself, but yet also carry forward those nurturing capacities within her being.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was awesome. Thanks again. The third time you were here in the sanctuary with me. So in order to get in touch with my brother Manifest Ra, please go to thesagemen.com. Also on Instagram, right?
Absolutely.
It's on Instagram too. And he has programs, and one is going now, but you'll have programs moving forward. So please just connect. It's a great way to help the healing of everybody, of our community in general. So I appreciate you for doing the work.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's a blessing to work with sisters like you who are doing the work, and I'm just honored to be here.
Well, thank you. So I will see you the next time in the sanctuary. Thank you for joining us.